"I think it was the towel," she said, not blinking. I stared at her like she had just tried to explain rain by blaming the microwave. "The hotel towel," I repeated, because I couldn't believe my ears. "Yeah," she nodded, arms folded, voice flat. "Or maybe the hot tub. You know how bacteria spreads." She was dead serious. Amanda, my wife of 4 years, was trying to convince me that she had contracted an STD from fabric. And I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so stupid. I thought maybe this was a prank. Maybe there were hidden cameras. Maybe Ashton Kutcher was about to jump out of our closet yelling, "Punked." Spoiler alert, he didn't. Let me rewind. Not to the beginning of our relationship, because trust me, none of that matters now, but to 3 hours earlier, when I was standing in our kitchen with my phone in my hand, staring at the lab results my doctor had just emailed me. Negative. That word hit me like a truck. Because a week earlier, Amanda had come home with tears in her eyes and said, "I need to talk to you about something. I just found out I tested positive for something I knew I didn't have. So I got tested in silence. Waited 5 agonizing days. And when the result came in, confirming what my gut had screamed all along, I walked straight into the living room, turned off the TV, and asked her one simple question. Who was it? She blinked like she didn't understand English. What do you mean? I showed her my phone. She looked at the screen, then at me, and then, with the most casual shrug I've ever seen, she started the towel lie. That's when I realized I wasn't dealing with a wife anymore. I was dealing with a child who got caught coloring on the walls and blamed the dog. She refused to say his name, refused to admit anything. But she didn't have to, because 2 days before that, I had already found a receipt, folded in the pocket of her denim jacket, wedged between a mint and a hair tie. A bar tab, Austin, Texas. One night after the wedding. 2 espresso martinis. 1 old-fashioned. A room charge for $312. 74. We didn't go to that wedding together. She told me it was just a college friend's wedding, and I wouldn't know anyone there. She was right. I didn't know the guy she slept with, either. But I was going to. Not to fight him. Not to scream. But to make both of them wish they had never touched that damn towel. I didn't go to work the next day. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop 2 towns over. One Amanda never liked because the espresso was too acidic. I sat in the corner, opened my laptop, and pulled up my credit card statement. I had a feeling there was more. And oh boy was I right. It wasn't just the bar receipt I found in her jacket. There were 2 Lyft charges from that weekend. One from the wedding venue to some boutique hotel, and another at 3:12 a.m. the next morning. Same hotel. Same name on the charge. Hotel Larkin, room 907. The receipts didn't say the room number. I got that from calling the hotel and pretending I was trying to recover a lost laptop from the same room my wife stayed in. They gave it up without a second thought. Room 907. I must have stared at that number for 10 minutes straight. Let me be clear, I wasn't planning revenge yet. Not fully. Not at this point. At this point, I was still in shock. Still clinging to the fantasy that this was a one-time mistake. A drunken blur. Some dumb heat-of-the-moment lapse in judgment that ended with shame and regret. But the more I dug, the more I realized there was no shame. No regret. I found photos next. No, not the obvious kind. Nothing NSFW. Nothing that would get this story flagged on YouTube. But damning nonetheless. Buried deep in her iCloud, still synced to our shared desktop, she forgot to disable it after upgrading her phone, were 5 pictures from that weekend. One of her in a pink dress holding a glass of champagne. One with a group of old college friends. One of her and some bearded guy holding hands under a string of patio lights. Yeah, that guy. His name was Declan. Found him in a group tag. He was one of the groomsmen. Tall. Tatted. The kind of guy who calls his mom dude and smirks during group prayers. One photo stood out. It wasn't posed. It was candid, Amanda laughing at something he whispered, her hand on his chest. She looked 21 again. Wild. Reckless. Alive. I couldn't breathe. Because I knew that version of her. I just hadn't seen her in years. She never laughed like that with me. Not even close. I slammed the laptop shut and just sat there, gripping my coffee cup so tightly the lid popped off. The barista asked if I was okay. I told him I had acid reflux. I went home that night and didn't say a word to Amanda. She asked how my day was. I said fine. She kissed my cheek. I flinched. She didn't notice. That was the last time she touched me. Over the next few days, I planned what most guys in my position wouldn't. Not revenge through yelling. Not cheating back. Not posting screenshots or torching her life online. I decided to destroy something far more important to Amanda than her reputation. Her control. I started by changing the locks. Quietly. She still had her keys, but they didn't work anymore. I told her the deadbolt was sticking. She believed me. Then I rerouted our mail to APO box. She never noticed. Then I made an appointment with a divorce attorney, a woman named Carla who had a smile like a guillotine. And finally, I reached out to Declan. Not to threaten him. Not even to confront him. I had a different question in mind. One I knew Amanda would never want answered. Hey man, you were with my wife in Austin. I'm not mad. I just need to know, did she ever tell you she was married? His reply made my stomach turn. Wait, what? She told me she was divorced. Last year. That was the moment the switch flipped completely. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-night accident. This was a campaign of deception. A second life. A conscious decision to pretend I didn't exist. And I promise you this. Amanda was about to learn exactly what it felt like to lose everything she thought she had under control. The day I spoke to Declan was the day I stopped sleeping. Not out of sadness. Out of focus. I was too busy rewiring my entire approach to life. Up until then, I thought the way to survive betrayal was by salvaging dignity, walking away quietly, head held high, letting karma handle the rest. But karma's too slow. And too kind. Amanda didn't need a lesson. She needed consequences. Swift. Surgical. Silent. I didn't tell her I knew about Declan. I didn't bring up the photos, the receipts, the room number, or the lie about the towel. Instead, I started acting happier. Warmer. Almost romantic. I cooked again. I put on music while we ate. I kissed her forehead before bed. She softened. She thought I was healing. That maybe, somehow, we could move forward. That's the thing about people who manipulate. They can't imagine someone doing the same to them. Behind her back, I was building something, a folder. Not digital. Not cloud-based. A physical folder hidden inside the base panel of our unused fireplace. Inside it, I kept everything. Printed screenshots, timestamps, copied receipts, text logs, even the hotel's confirmation of her room booking. I added a transcript of Declan's messages, including the part where he admitted she told him she was already divorced. He sent me a screenshot of her Bumble profile, too, something I didn't even know existed. The photo she used was one I had taken of her at a cabin 2 years ago. I remember the moment. We had just finished hiking, and she was tired, but glowing. That smile, now weaponized for strangers. The folder wasn't just for legal ammo, although it would later come in handy. It was therapy, proof that I wasn't crazy, that the pit in my stomach for the last year hadn't been paranoia. It was a paper trail of erosion, of how the woman I thought I married slowly dismantled everything while smiling through it. 3 weeks passed, and Amanda remained oblivious. She started planning a staycation for us. Said she found a cute Airbnb to reconnect. I agreed. Told her I was excited. Even helped her pick the place. She booked it for mid-May. She had no idea I would be serving her divorce papers the same morning we were supposed to check in. But I wasn't finished. Not even close. Before I dropped the hammer, I needed one final piece of closure. Not from Amanda. From her friends. Her real friends. The ones who smiled in my face at dinner parties and sent heart emojis under our anniversary posts. The ones who supposedly had no idea what she'd been doing behind my back. So I made a burner Instagram account. Took me 15 minutes. Used a stock photo for the avatar and a fake name. Sent polite, casual DMs to 4 of her closest friends. Julia, Morgan, Paige, and Sarah. Just a simple message. Hey, just wondering. Did you know Amanda was married when she hooked up with Declan after Lyle's wedding? Not trying to start anything, just confused. It took 10 minutes for the first reply. Sarah, wait, what? Morgan followed. She told us you were separated. Julia left me on read. Typical. Then came Paige, the one I suspected the most. Her reply. Yeah. She said you had moved out like a year ago. Didn't think y'all were still together. Sorry you're finding out like this. That was it. That was the confirmation I needed. Amanda hadn't just cheated. She had carefully constructed a parallel reality. She told her friends, her flings, and probably even herself that I was out of the picture. She buried me alive while sleeping beside me every night. And you know what the worst part was? I believed I was boring enough to deserve it. For a long time, I thought maybe she strayed because I wasn't exciting, because I didn't have tattoos, because I didn't party, because I used coupons and labeled leftovers. But now I knew the truth. It had nothing to do with who I was. It had everything to do with what she thought she could get away with. That realization flipped the final switch in me. No more surveillance. No more waiting. No more giving her a chance to explain it all away. It was time. I called Carla, my attorney, and gave her the green light. The divorce filing would be official in 48 hours. Amanda just didn't know yet that her world was about to collapse before brunch on Saturday. Saturday came like a funeral in slow motion. Amanda was up early, packing her overnight bag with that weird buzz in her voice she always had when she thought we were on the mend. She put on her favorite beige cardigan, the one she wore the day I proposed. Ironic. She played an old acoustic playlist in the background while curling her hair in the mirror. She even hummed. I sat at the edge of the bed, pretending to scroll through my phone, every muscle in my body tensed like wire. My hands weren't shaking, but they felt charged, like if I touched anything too soft, I'd rip it in half. We were supposed to check into the Airbnb by 11 o'clock. She was ready by 10:15, but I had something else ready first. She didn't notice the envelope on the counter at first. I made sure of it, placed it just barely angled, so it caught her attention only as we were about to walk out. She was locking her phone, zipping her bag, already moving toward the door when she paused and said, "What's this?" I shrugged. Something for the trip. She opened it, still half smiling. But the second she saw the first page, I saw something short-circuit behind her eyes. She blinked once, twice, and then that smile fell like a chandelier cut from its ceiling. The air in the room changed, like we'd suddenly dropped into a different temperature. She looked at me and asked the dumbest question of all. "What is this?" "You know what it is," I said calmly. "Just like I know what room 907 is." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She glanced at the second page, the legal breakdown, and tried to speak. I watched the words dissolve in her throat. No yelling, no crying, just silence. She stood there with the envelope in one hand, the zipper of her bag still halfway open, like she couldn't figure out whether to stay or run. I let her stand in it. "You're divorcing me?" she finally whispered, as if she were the victim here. "Technically, yes," I replied. "But think of it more like, you're reaping what you've sown." That's when the switch flipped in her. I saw it. That flicker of fear morphing into rage. She started spitting accusations, turning the whole thing around like it was my fault. That I invaded her privacy. That I never emotionally showed up in the marriage. That I made her feel like a ghost. That she had needs, and if I was too busy playing house husband to notice, then maybe I deserved to be left behind. I let her talk. I let her dump every manipulative, ego-saving excuse she could come up with, because it all sounded like a child blaming the floor for falling. The truth was simple. She had lied, repeatedly, to everyone. Me, her friends, even the guy she slept with. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Because control tasted better than honesty. When she was done screaming, I pointed to the last page in the envelope. "That's the clause," I said. "You should read it." She scanned it, eyes twitching. It was the part where I waived alimony, on the condition that she didn't contest the divorce or try to claim assets. She froze. "You're leaving me with nothing?" she asked, voice now low, hoarse, almost unrecognizable. I tilted my head. "No, you're leaving yourself with nothing." She stepped forward like she wanted to slap me. I think she thought it would reset the power dynamic. But I didn't move. I just looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. Not as my wife, not as Amanda, but as the woman who had slowly poisoned my life and then blamed the cup. "I loved you," I said, "and you used that love like it was credit, spent it, maxed it out, then looked surprised when the bill came due." The moment passed. She didn't hit me, didn't cry. She just stood there, clutching the envelope like it was a bomb she didn't know how to disarm. I picked up my keys, walked out the front door, and got in the car alone. The Airbnb was still booked under my name. I figured I might as well get a peaceful night's sleep before the next phase of all this started. Because while Amanda thought that was the end of it, she hadn't yet seen what was coming from her job, her friend group, or the last will I was rewriting. You see, I wasn't just taking back my life. I was about to take back every lie she'd told and make her own it in front of the people she thought would never know. The Airbnb was quiet, almost too quiet. I sat on the edge of the bed in a room full of cream-colored furniture, staring at the untouched welcome basket the host had left. Fake smiles, organic crackers, a little card that said unplug and reconnect. Funny, that's exactly what I had just done, only not with Amanda. I didn't cry that night. I didn't even think about her. I thought about the years I'd lost, about the time spent running errands for a woman who, all the while, was practicing how to lie with her eyes. And for once, I didn't feel small. I felt awake, like I'd been sleepwalking through my own life, and someone finally slapped me hard enough to make the world go sharp again. That morning, I sent 4 emails. One to my divorce attorney, confirming I'd signed the papers and that they were being sent via courier. One to my bank, freezing our joint account and requesting separate statements moving forward. One to the leasing office, asking to remove Amanda from the lease effective immediately. And one to myself, a reminder never to forget what betrayal looks like when it dresses itself up in romance. But the 5th message, that one was different. It wasn't an email. It was a photo, sent to a group chat Amanda had with 6 of her closest friends: Julia, Paige, Morgan, Sarah, Nicole, and Hannah. The group was called The Coven. I only knew this because Amanda used to laugh about it when their phones all dinged at once during dinner parties. It was where they planned girls' trips, shared memes, gossiped about coworkers, and apparently, carefully avoided asking questions about why Amanda suddenly stopped mentioning me after 2022. The photo I sent was simple, a selfie of me holding up the printed Bumble screenshot of Amanda's dating profile, next to a copy of our marriage certificate, signed, dated, and sealed. No caption, just the image. It took exactly 43 seconds for Amanda to call me. I didn't answer. I watched her name light up my screen, over and over, until she gave up and started texting. The messages went from confused, to panicked, to furious. Then came the guilt tactics, the "how could you do this to me?" and the "this isn't fair," and my personal favorite, "you're ruining my friendships for no reason." But it wasn't just about her lying to her friends. No, see, Amanda had told them she was the victim. She told them I'd walked out, that I'd fallen out of love, that we'd separated amicably but hadn't finalized it yet. She made herself the main character in a fake tragedy, just so she could parade around as a single woman without accountability. But now her friends were seeing the truth, the full picture, and they were turning on her. I know this because Paige, the only one who had been even remotely honest when I messaged her from the burner, forwarded me screenshots. Morgan, Amanda, WTF is this? Hannah, wait, you told us you were divorced last year. Nicole, are you seriously dating behind his back? Amanda, guys, it's not like that. He's twisting everything. Julia, why does he have receipts then? Like actual receipts? This is messy AF. She tried spinning it, of course. Claimed we had been basically over for months. Said I was bitter. Said I was emotionally manipulative and that I was trying to control the narrative. But here's the thing about control. When you build your kingdom on lies, the moment someone flicks one truth into the room, it spreads like wildfire. Amanda was scrambling. Her replies got shorter. The typing bubbles kept popping up and disappearing like she was writing, then erasing excuses faster than she could invent them. And me? I just sat back, drinking bad coffee from a ceramic mug that said, "Home is where the Wi-Fi connects automatically." Watching her empire of curated nonsense start to tilt. She didn't know about the next wave yet, because while her friends were tearing down the lies in real time, I had just emailed her boss. Not out of revenge, not exactly, but because she had used me on official tax documents as a dependent spouse, and I was legally obligated to correct that information for auditing purposes. Her job, a marketing coordinator for a high-end interior design firm, had an image to uphold. Amanda had used her marriage to me to secure a relocation bonus, family leave benefits, and tax breaks on filing. Filing as a divorced woman, while married, was not just immoral, it was fraud. And I made sure the HR team had a very neat folder with supporting documents by noon. I wasn't trying to get her fired. But if that's what happened, let's just say I wouldn't be shedding any tears. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't the one cleaning up someone else's mess. I was just letting her live in it. The email to Amanda's HR department triggered a predictable series of alarms. By Monday morning, she had blocked me on every social platform, even LinkedIn, which I hadn't logged into since 2019. I wasn't offended. Honestly, I laughed. It was like watching someone try to put out a wildfire by throwing dry leaves on it. Meanwhile, I was still gathering pieces. Not out of spite. Not even for court at that point. I didn't need more ammo. I just wanted answers. I wanted to understand how deep the lie went. How long she had been wearing this other face, telling strangers she was someone else, while sleeping beside me like nothing was wrong. So I went back into the synced iCloud account. Not just photos this time, but documents. Amanda had forgotten to unlink her files folder from our shared Apple ID when she switched phones. Buried deep in a nested archive were screenshots of conversations she had saved. Some were with Declan. Some were with her friends. But one stood out. A name I didn't recognize. Aiden C. It wasn't the name that got me. It was the tone. The screenshots dated back nearly 7 months. Long before the wedding. Long before Declan. In these messages, she wasn't just flirting. She was planning. Meeting up. Joking about how she couldn't believe he thought she was single after the last guy went soft. That was me. She was talking about me. To Aiden. The more I read, the colder I got. There were references to hotel rooms. Jokes about the married life, with emojis and photos, not explicit, but intimate. One showed her curled up in a hoodie that didn't belong to me. Another was a blurry mirror pic where someone else's silhouette was visible, holding the phone behind her. She had been doing this long before I found that receipt from Austin. Declan wasn't the beginning. He was just the one I caught. This other man, Aiden, was someone she'd been entertaining during our anniversary trip last fall. That same weekend I took her to a vineyard and thought we'd finally reconnected. She'd posted a photo of us on Facebook with the caption, "Still my best friend." I remembered liking it, heart-reacting it, sharing it, while she was sharing her body with someone else. But what made it worse, what burned deeper than anything, was a short video clip she had saved from Aiden's IG stories. It was of a housewarming party, one I wasn't invited to. One Amanda said was just for coworkers. And there, in the background of the video, I saw Julia, one of the 6 girls from the group chat, laughing, toasting, standing beside Amanda, and beside Aiden. They all knew, or at least some of them did, not just about Declan, but about Aiden, about the entire double life Amanda had built on brunches, secrets, and cute captions. They weren't just her accomplices, they were her audience, watching her cheat, lie, perform, and cheering her on from the front row. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. Then I picked up my phone and called someone I hadn't spoken to in over 2 years, Elise, Amanda's older sister. She answered on the second ring. I expected resistance, defensiveness, maybe even the same tired "this is between you two" speech I'd gotten from everyone else. But instead, Elise exhaled and said, "I was wondering when you were going to call me." And that's when she told me everything. That Amanda had a pattern, that I wasn't the first, that in college, she'd kept 2 boyfriends on different campuses, that she used lies the way artists use paint, casually, creatively, with no regard for the mess. Elise had warned her once, after catching her cheating on her high school sweetheart. Amanda had shrugged and said, "Some people are built for more than one person." I wanted to throw the phone across the room. But instead, I asked the question that had haunted me since this all started. Did she ever love me? Elise was quiet for a long time. Then she said something I'll never forget. "I think she loved how much you loved her. That's not the same thing." And suddenly, it all made sense. Every cold night, every dodged question, every time she smiled without smiling with her eyes. Amanda had never truly loved me. She had loved the version of herself she got to be when someone else adored her unconditionally. When that adoration faded, when I became routine, she went looking for a new mirror. And now that mirror was shattered. But I wasn't finished yet. Because the next person I planned to talk to was Aiden. And unlike Declan, he wasn't going to be nearly as calm when he found out he was just part of a playlist, and not even the first track. I didn't have Aiden's number, but I didn't need it. He was exactly the kind of guy who left a digital trail a mile wide. Gym selfies, car videos, Spotify screenshots captioned "Monday grind set," and story replies from a half-dozen women, all reacting to shirtless pics in hotel mirrors. One reverse image search and 2 minutes on Facebook later, I found his profile, which led me to his LinkedIn, which, like most people, had his business contact email right there in the open. And just like that, the next phase began. I drafted a message that wasn't threatening, not accusatory, just enough to shatter the version of Amanda he believed he had. I told him I was her husband, that we were legally married during every month he'd been seeing her. I attached one photo, her Bumble profile, next to our marriage certificate. No angry words. No insults. Just reality. He replied 3 hours later. At first, I thought he was going to ignore me. But his email was a wall of disbelief, denial, then rage. At her, not me. He said he had no idea. That she'd told him she'd been divorced for over a year. That she was just healing and figuring herself out and needed discretion. She told him I had been emotionally abusive, cold, distant, that I had drained her savings and left her with nothing but trauma to process. It was almost impressive how cleanly she had split herself between two lives. The Amanda I knew wore cardigans, drank herbal tea, and spent Sundays organizing spice racks. The Amanda he knew wore silk robes, took pole fitness classes, and had a tattoo she always kept hidden when she was with me. He said she once joked about burning her old life to the ground. Looks like I had just made good on that wish. But then he sent me something I wasn't expecting, a screenshot. It was from just a few nights before. A message she accidentally sent him. It was meant for someone else. I read it 10 times before I could even breathe again. Make sure Aiden doesn't find out about the other thing. He still thinks he's the only one. And I can't lose him too. She wasn't juggling 2 people. She was juggling 3. And that was the moment something in me snapped. Not in a violent way. Not in some dramatic, take the car and disappear way. No, something much colder. Quieter. I had spent so long trying to surgically dismantle her world, making sure I didn't cross any lines, didn't become the villain in my own story. But now, I realized something. Amanda had never cared about lines. She'd never once hesitated to destroy me emotionally, socially, or financially. So why the hell was I still holding back? It was time to finish this. And I knew exactly how. Amanda worked at a boutique design firm that relied almost entirely on client referrals. It wasn't just about her portfolio, it was about image, reputation, trust. She had built her brand on curated honesty, organic inspiration, authentic storytelling through design. I knew the pitch word for word. I had helped her rehearse it for interviews. And now I was going to let people hear a different kind of story. But first, I had to lay the final trap. I set up a new email, one she wouldn't recognize. I created a fake name. Female. Professional. A potential client interested in a luxury home redesign. I filled out the inquiry form on her company's website. Said I found Amanda's work through a referral. Said I was fascinated by her approach to clean modern balance, especially how she blends structure and softness. Barf. Amanda responded within the hour. Grateful. Excited. Offering to set up a consultation call the next day. Perfect. I set the meeting for 3 p.m., same time her HR department was scheduled to receive a couriered package with the real Amanda inside. Photos, documents, screenshots, timelines. A side-by-side profile of who she claimed to be and who she actually was. I didn't need to say a word on that call. I just needed to let the timing do its job. Because when the curtain falls, it doesn't matter how good the performance was. All anyone remembers is who was lying on stage when the lights came back on. The meeting never happened. Not because Amanda canceled. She didn't. She showed up, right on schedule, bubbly and professional, ready to impress, Jasmine K. With mood boards and Pinterest links and buzzwords like sustainable luxury and biophilic tones. But 25 minutes before her consultation, her phone started ringing. Her boss, then HR, then legal. And by the time 2:57 p.m. rolled around, she was no longer employed. I never got to see her reaction live. Didn't need to. Elise, her sister, texted me later that night. Whatever you did, it landed. All she told the family was that there had been a misunderstanding with a client. That she had chosen to step away for personal growth. Amanda always had a way of rewriting her own history. But this time, I didn't care. Because that chapter, her chapter in my book, was finally over. There was no dramatic final conversation. No screaming in parking lots. No how could you monologues. The divorce was processed quietly, cleanly. The clause I included in the filing ensured she walked away without spousal support, without access to our joint savings, and without the ability to contest. I left the house we lived in, not because I had to, but because I didn't want to sleep in a place where love had been butchered in the dark. I found a one-bedroom place with creaky floors, too much sunlight, and not a single memory of Amanda between the walls. I kept the dog, and more importantly, I kept my peace. The first few weeks were strange. Not sad, quiet. The kind of quiet you don't notice at first, because you're so used to background noise. I remember waking up at 6:30 one morning, expecting to hear Amanda blow-drying her hair, playing some obnoxious girl boss podcast about morning routines and oat milk. But there was nothing, just sunlight and silence. And I realized I hadn't actually missed her. I had missed the idea of someone who was never really there to begin with. It took time, but slowly, the world stopped spinning. I started hiking again, joined a local trivia league, had my first good haircut in years. I even started seeing someone, not seriously at first. Her name's Marin. She works at the library and laughs like she actually means it. She doesn't ask me for anything, and somehow that makes me want to give her everything. I never told her the whole story, just that I went through a rough divorce, and I'm still building myself back. She didn't press. She just smiled and said, "Everyone has a before." And I guess that's what Amanda was. My before. Because for all the heartbreak, all the lies, all the unraveling, I came out of this better. Not angrier. Not colder. Just sharper. More awake. I no longer confuse comfort with loyalty. I no longer think quiet suffering is love. And I no longer hand my soul to anyone who hasn't earned even the shape of it. Amanda? Last I heard, she moved 2 states over. Started some freelance business, rebranded her image, deleted most of her social media. Rumor has it she's seeing someone new. Good for her. I hope she's learned something. I hope she finds whatever she was always chasing. But I don't wish her pain anymore. Because she's no longer mine to forgive. She never was. And me? I'm doing just fine. Better, actually. Free.